Welcome, everybody. Glad you could join us today. Very pleased and very honored to be speaking with Behn Wilson today. Mr. Wilson, as most of you probably know, spent about 10 years in the NHL played for Philadelphia and Chicago, one of the toughest fighters and also a very skilled defenseman during his time. Ben, after he left the game in 1988, really didn't do a lot of public speaking about his playing days until recently. He appeared on a few podcasts, which were outstanding to see in late last year, and is also the subject of a book by Scoop Malinowski entitled Facing Behn Wilson. And I'll put a link in the description for those of you who'd like to check out that particular publication. And Ben, thank you again for joining me. If you'd like to say anything more about the book or any other further opening remarks, the floor is yours for that.
Well, first of all, I wonder where all the time went since I played. It seems to go fast, but you're right. After I retired, I had retired, and I had a family. I had three girls, and I was busy trying to keep food on the table for them and keep them busy and all that. So I didn't do an interview for, I can't do the math, but 30, 35, 40 years. And Scoop, it's actually, I don't know how funny, but it's interesting. Scoop got a hold of my daughter, and my daughter asked me for about a year, like once a quarter, is, hey, a guy wants to do an interview with you? Yeah. So finally she said, Dad, the guy says it's 5 to 10 minutes. It's 5 questions. Surely you can do it. So I did it, and it was 5 questions. And I knew of Scoop and his history. We talked for a little bit, and he sent an email, thanked me, and wherever he posted, he said get a lot of hits on it. So that was fun. And then I don't know how many months later, he sent me a text. This is being released today. And that's all he said, and my picture, and kind of looks like a book, but he never mentioned it. I'm not involved in it. So, but sure enough, he wrote the book, and which prompted me. I've done like 4 interviews now because of this, but I don't know how to explain why I'm doing them now, other than when Scoop wrote the book. He took a different technique. He didn't say, oh, tell me about, I started off as a young baby and I was small and I grew up and I got a little larger. And he didn't do that. He went and interviewed contemporaries, and guys just tell their stories, not about anything in particular, but their most vivid memories. And it brought back a tremendous amount of memories to me, and things I hadn't thought of, in 30 or 40 years, and all of a sudden it's there. Say, oh yeah, and I thought Scoop's done a pretty clever thing. He's memorialized these things that have happened that normally wouldn't get published and dispersed, and then eventually they're lost to time. And so it was really neat. And some guys I played with, he interviewed, some guys against me, and I thought, you know what, this is actually pretty cool to share some of this stuff. So I said, listen, if it's promoting your book, Scoop Malinowski, Facing Behn Wilson. But if it's, I said, that's great. And some of these stories should be memorialized, because I think they're really interesting. So that's how I got here, and here I am.
Well, that's great, and I thank you. And I think some of the things I wanted to talk with you about are in that same vein, memorializing things that maybe aren't very well known about you, but I think are quite interesting, and hopefully the interview will turn out that way. I guess I'd like to start with, in your junior career, you began playing as a 16-year-old in Ottawa for Brian Kilray. And it was interesting. I looked at the penalty minute totals of your first year. You were second on the team. Your brother John was third. Leading the team in penalty minutes was Doug Wilson, which had to be the only time that ever happened. It wasn't that type of player, but obviously knew him very early in your life, at least as a teammate. Did he have any impressions on you at that time, even?
Well, first of all, I would say this. Um, Doug played a lot of ice time, and my brother and I sat the bench and played 1 or 2 shifts a game.
Uh,
So it's pretty tough to run up a lot of penalty minutes when you're in some games you don't play at all. Um, but um, I played midget hockey against 16 and 15-year-olds, and I'm 16 the next year, and I'm playing against guys that are up to 19 and 20, and that was a shock.
hmm,
Guys were bigger, stronger, shaving, physically, matured. And um, so I was 16. I think Doug was 17, or just turning 18. And Doug was a superstar back then. If
hmm,
he played the same way he played the entire pro career, he was consistent. He didn't make mistakes. He always made great passes. But great passes are, you got to put it flat on a guy's stick. There's no sense in making a good pass bouncing in his ankles. You make it timely. You don't make it too late. And everyone knows about his incredible shot. But Doug had, in my mind, the perfect game, and he was a huge influence. So it was pretty, hard on my father, encouraged me or beat into my head. When you're on the bench sitting there, do something, and that's watch the best player on the defenseman on the ice, watch what they play, and try to learn something. And I had the best defenseman on the ice every game because it was Doug, and I watched him, and not as easy as it said to play as well as him, but certainly he was a huge influence. Great player, great teammate, and he had a fabulous career. And I would say this, I think Doug was drafted the year before me. He was 7th overall, I think. And for my money, he should have been number 1 overall. And
hmm.
maybe because I like the guy personally, I saw so much of him. But he was fabulous in junior, and I think at 17 he could have played pro and done great. He just had it all. He had the body, the physical thing. He had the speed, the hands, the brains. He was just great.
Right. Yeah, and yeah, maybe Mike Bossy was the only other player that might have gone higher in that year, but the Islanders obviously got him later. Um, so this is your second year a junior. You and your brother were traded to Windsor, wasn't it?
Wins-
For the rights to Jimmy Fox. And you spoke about in a couple of other interviews. You went and played well there. You're playing big minutes, recording more than a point a game from the defense position. Went out and played out west in a tournament, junior tournament, where even a Soviet team was there. You get back, and not long after that, just from the newspaper accounts, out of nowhere, the coach Wayne Maxner suspends you for indifferent play, and for the rest of the year. I mean, some things just don't add up in that scenario there. If you don't want to talk about it, that's fine, but it just seemed really like a strange. I mean, it's like buying almost a brand new car and parking it behind the barn a month later. They just an
Um,
odd circumstance.
you know, I don't have any grudges or axe to grind or whatever. Um, when I got back from the tournament against the Russians and all that, um, I was probably averaging playing 40 minutes a game, 45 minutes a game. And the burn rate from 20 minutes a game, I hated and didn't feel I was in the game. 25 minutes is okay. 28 minutes, 27 minutes was about my sweet spot. And 45 minutes a game, it's exponentially more difficult. And he suspended me for indifferent play. And it was funny, my agent, the International League, was setting up, it just changed the rules that they were going to take players under 20 or something like that. And my agent said, "You want to go?" I said, "Fine." I'm 18, and so I got down there for about 2 days, and Windsor, Maxner called up my agent or my dad's house or whatever and said, Ben can come back and play now, but I was already playing down there. So,
Oh,
um,
okay.
um, so what Wayne did is then he set my brother on the bench for the rest of the year, and I think my brother was scoring over a point a game. My brother was a good player. He could have played on any NHL team. This is my brother John, on
Hmm.
any
Hmm.
NHL team I had, and not been the worst player. He could have been somewhere between 10th and 20th on any team, and he set him for the rest of the year, and
Hmm.
uh, it hurt my brother's draft. So I don't know what Wayne was thinking.
Okay.
I will tell you a funny story about Wayne, though, is when I first got there and we practice, our practice was just shinny hockey to scrimmage and play. And one of the guys came up to me and said, because then Wayne plays with us too.
Oh,
And he doesn't wear equipment and he plays. And he said, just let him score. He said, "You watch this guy over there." He mentioned the guy's name. He said, he tries to do a good job and show Wayne how good he is. And Wayne hates it. He just
hmm.
let Wayne score. So why we're training in junior to go out and just get out of the way and let Wayne score.
Wow.
Um, but it all fit, and to me, it all fit in with suspending me and sitting my brother on the bench. And when I don't know if he would be the leading scorer on the team at the time, but he was is maybe in the top three.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
it was just crazy. But you know what? And life stuff happens. And you're sometimes you're the windshield, sometimes you're the bug, and you got to pick up and move on, and you can't stay stuck there. So he got to do what he did. He played his thing, suspending me. I hope he's happy, and he made the right move for him. And I moved on, and my brother moved on.
Well, good. Thanks for fleshing that out a little bit. There's some elements there that I wasn't aware of, and um, yeah, certainly. Did that your brother did that make him a little bit delusioned with a potential hockey career? Because he went into medicine, or studied to be a pre-med student right after that. I understand.
Yeah, I think you know just I looked at any team and say, the top 10 players are on the team. And they're the top 10 players. And there's no, now, of the bottom 10 guys, coach might like you, might not. And maybe there's a guy in the minors he really likes. And over the years, you see a coach that really likes this guy and elevates him up the ladder. And you have to wonder why. And then some guy hates and demoted. And so if you're going to have a good career in the NHL, you've got to be either fortunate and coaches like you, or you've got to be a top 10 player, in my opinion. And if not, it's you're always looking at going down in the minors and stuff like that. And my brother, if he played pro, was going to be on the bottom, more perilous side. And he went back to school and he's a retina surgeon today. So, and that's just the way it is. You got to make your call and you live with it, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. So then your final year of junior, you go to Kingston, and I read you gave the coach there, Jim Morrison, a lot of credit for um, really handling you well, and got along well and had a great season. Second on the team in points from the defense position again, only to Tony McKegney. Um, there was there was one incident that I want to ask about. You get into the playoffs against Sault Ste. Marie. Now, most people who followed Wayne Gretzky's career know that he only got rang up, hit hard once by Bill McCreary, not the referee. But it wasn't the first time something like that happened, because I think it was March, uh, you were facing him in the third period. I guess from what I read, you caught him with a good stiff check at center, basically knocked him out of the game, and then went on to score the game-winning goal in overtime. You remember anything about that game?
Well, you can't forget hitting Gretzky. And I would say this, Gretzky. First of all, Gretzky didn't play hockey. I have no idea what he's doing, but he didn't play the same game as the rest of us. It was, it was, it was amazing. But you know, when Gretzky's coming down on you, and if you got him angled off, he knows it, and he'll just peel away and live to fight another day. And what I always try to do is hold on to him, pretend that we're just together, and see if I could run him into the boards. And but he was an impossible guy to hit. He anticipated everything. You can't, once he knows he's angled off, he rolls out of it and lives to fight another day. And eventually he catches and scores. But in junior, so most of my hitting was cross checking. Thought it hurt guys more. And so that was my hitting. And what happened was, uh, you know, when the defenseman passes the puck up on an angle to the center in the middle of the ice, like I was saying before, Doug Wilson, you got to make a good pass, and it's got to be early. You can't do it late. And this guy passed the puck a little slow, a little late, and I actually made a clean hit. You know, one of my few clean hits in my entire life, and it was a clean hit. I don't know what exactly happened. Like, did I hit him hard? Yeah, but I knocked him out, and I don't know if I like caught his neck and jammed him. I don't know what happened, but he's on the ice. So I think that's the last time I cleanly hit Wayne Gretzky. Maybe the last time anyone has. So that was a funny thing. But like I said, Wayne was like 2 days ahead of everybody and anticipated everything. And he didn't let that happen again. And you know, in football, your wide receiver cutting over the middle, and your quarterback throws you slow and late, and you get your head taken off.
Suicide pass. Yeah.
And it's the same thing. It's a suicide pass, um, and that's the problem. Um, you know, when you move up, when you play with better players, you get the puck earlier, faster, harder, flatter. You know, so yeah, that was funny. It's amazing that you even remember that. Holy shit! So
Yeah, and like I said, you got the game-winning goal in overtime against Greg Millen, which wouldn't be the last big goal you scored on him either. We get to, I guess, when growing up and playing junior, when I read a book, I love sport autobiographies, and read a book. Brian Sutter made a comment. He knew that he'd have a decent chance of playing in the NHL when he saw players that he played well and handled successfully being drafted ahead of him. When did it click in the mind of a young Behn Wilson that, you know, hey, I have a legitimate shot at not just a pipe dream of playing in the NHL? How did that realization come to you?
I think um, the beginning started the beginning of my second year junior. Um, Instead of sitting on the bench playing, um, and things are going well. The way I would describe it is, you know, I was in charge of my game. I'm a positive to the team. Things are going well. Not at the level of Doug. Doug seemed to be just at another level all the time, but still I was doing well. And then you mentioned the tournament, playing the Russians, and um, I walked away from that tournament and feeling, you know, that I can play. I was playing against my best peers, and you know, and things were saw what they can do, and I thought it some way it fit in. Yeah.
Okay, okay. Um, we get to draft day 1978, and of course you were taken 6 overall by the Flyers, and I think was Ken Linsman picked right after you, but also in the first round. So some good draft pick management there. But the pick did not originally belong to Philadelphia. They sent 3 regulars, Orest Kinderchuk, Tom Bladen, Ross Lonsberg to the Penguins for that pick. And if I remember right, made a side deal with Colorado. We were picking 5th, not to take you. They took your teammate from junior, Mike Gillis, I think. Were you aware of these machinations and the Flyers' keen interest in you?
Yeah, I had dinner with Keith Allen and a couple of the head scouts, and before.
Mhm.
And but and back then, there'd be you're playing junior, and all of a sudden there'd be an article, the top 25 draft picks. And one time you're way up there, the next time you're not on the list, right?
Mm.
What am I doing wrong? And you speak with a couple of the teams, and you have dinner with a couple of the teams, and but it's where the rubber meets the road, and um, your whole life is built up to this moment, so it's hard to say anything other than absolute guarantee makes you feel good. Um, but um, there's a few, looking back, you always know what the draft order should have been. Um, and clearly Bobby Smith was a fabulous player. And Kenny Linsman, um, fabulous. And he was playing in the WHA. And
Mhm.
so who drafted him had to buy him out of his other contract. And that probably put um, Kenny down. Maybe he could have been number one. I don't
Mm.
know. And then Wayne Babbage was a great player. And but you just I kind of thought I fit in, but you never know. And to say the night before you slept a lot, that didn't happen because you're wondering, and all of a sudden it happened, and then things move quickly and you move on.
Indeed. And you had pretty good success that first year. I think 49 points as a rookie on defense. I want to ask you about your first game, if you recall it, in Chicago Stadium, and what kind of a impression that place, that building made on you. You had two fights in that game, one against Grant Mulvey and another against Keith Magnuson. I don't remember the Mulvey one, but I do remember the Magnuson tiff. You was quite one sided in your favor. But any impressions from the stadium as a young player coming in on the visiting team?
It's pretty overwhelming going to the old stadium. Um, the fans, and you feel like the fans are right on top of you, and in fact, they're in the game also. And it was crazy, and the game was violent back there, and the fans made it extra crazy. And I remember walking off the ice after a period, and the fans were, I don't know, throwing something or taking a swing at me. So I lifted my hand up to protect my face, and guy grabbed my stick and hit me with my own stick. So, hey, welcome to Chicago. But so wasn't overly thrilled with that. And but then when I got traded to Chicago, then it was great to have him on your side. So, what,
I suppose.
not much, that's just the way it is. So,
Sure,
uh,
sure.
and then, yeah, Keith Magnuson is the captain. Played hard, and is the end of his career. And um, he was smaller than me, and um, I don't. There's some pushing and shoving that goes on, which is after every whistle it happened, and I'm holding on to him, and I do what I always do. I get in the grip, and my left hand grip the side of his right elbow, and I'm holding on to him there. He's not gripping me in a way he can defend himself. So this is I know he can't hit me. He could take as many swings as he want. My grip was going to stop his punch. That grip was just perfect. So his punches wouldn't even get 6 inches in my face. And he kept yanking on my shirt and yanking on my shirt. And then I started taunting him. And we fight. Surprisingly, he couldn't hit me because I already knew that. He didn't hold me properly. So I got to wail on him. And so I go to the penalty box, and Bobby Clark comes over, and I thought he was going to say, "Hey, good job, Ben." And he said, "What the hell did you do?" He didn't have to beat him up. And
Oh,
so I didn't know. I didn't know. Magnuson plays hard. Um,
okay.
eh, I don't know how much fighting he did, but he didn't strike me. He struck me as a strong, wiry guy and tough, um, but not a fighter. And so. Yeah, I got
Hmm.
yelled at by Clark. Welcome to the, got hit in the head with a stick, my own stick in the from the fans. Welcome to Chicago.
Wow, amazing. Um, as a couple spoken kind of at length about your time in Philadelphia, there are a couple of other highlights I want to ask you about. A lot of people remember the 35 game winning streak in your second year, which is still the I think the longest in North American sports, unbeaten streak. Um, as Paul Holmgren said, there were a number of close calls in there, and one of which was a game in December against Pittsburgh. It was you're down 1-0 late in the third, and you made a rush and scored on Greg Millen uh, to tie that game and keep the streak intact. The following year, you go to the All Star game in Los Angeles and score a goal, get in behind Reed Larson, take a Wayne Gretzky pass, and bang by Mario Lessard. That had to be a thrill. And All Star game was a real hockey game back then. It's not a circus atmosphere. It was a 4-1 score. It was so very very exciting times those first 3 years in Philadelphia.
Yeah, I think one of the things that stand out, and when after I think better players have better skills and just general, but it's their anticipation and um, the most impression on me was Bobby Clark, and that is it's like he was giving you telegraphic signals of where to go and get open,
Hmm.
and you go there and you get open. He's getting you the puck. It was it was uncanny because there's nothing more discouraging than breaking to get open, and you're open. It's going to be a great play, and there's no pass. Clark would have you that. You get open. It didn't matter if he had five sticks in his face and he's falling down. He'd still have you the pass.
Hmm.
And what I remember about the All-Star game is kind of a little bit of a. I don't remember the play that well, but it's a little bit of a give and go. But Gretzky and like Clark, you get him the puck and you get open, and the puck's coming, and
Hmm.
he the way I can't remember exactly, but he didn't have a lot of time, and I'm getting closer and closer in on the net, and the puck's not coming, and but he got it to me, and I was almost in too close.
Hmm.
And but it worked out. But again, I think that's magic. That when um, you just know some guys are always going to get you the puck. Um, and and when you're passing the puck, some guys always know how to get open for you, and like not open right behind you because you don't have eyes in the back of your head. Open where you can find them, and the great goal scorers just have this uncanny knack of how to get open where they can shoot.
Hmm.
And um, I guess the funny part was, I'm just digressing a bit, but the um, great goal scorers get open where they can shoot, but they want the puck. If they're open, they're pissed that they didn't get the puck. They're also pissed if it doesn't go in the net. Like hitting, if I hit a goal post, I say, man, that's a great try. They're just furious that they didn't put it in. So when they're open, they want the puck. And if I get them the puck, I want them to put it in the net. And, I think of the earlier parts of my career, two penalties and one on each side was canceling. So you played a lot of 4-on-4.
Hmm.
And then with another penalty, you played 4-on-3. And I had, if you can believe it, the honor, the privilege to go out and play with Clark, Barber, and Leach. And Reggie Leach and Billy Barber were great players. They could do everything. They could skate, they could handle the puck, and they could shoot cannons. And but on the power play, they knew if they had the puck, they couldn't get open to shoot. And they didn't waste time carrying the puck. It's not because they couldn't, it's because they weren't going to waste time. And um, so Clark and I carried the puck. And if you passed them the puck, they couldn't shoot, they give it right back to you. Because another guy's hold on the puck too long and nothing ever happens. They were the greatest. If they couldn't shoot, they get it back to you. And then again, if they didn't care if a stick was going in your face and you're falling down. If they're open, they wanted the puck, and that's how things work. So, Doug Wilson was fabulous like that. I'll tell you, in Chicago, the guy that always mystified me was Steve Larmer, and Steve Larmer was a fabulous goal scorer. He had a great shot. He always know how to get open, and he sit there and say. And one time I said to him, "It always seems like you're going to the wrong spot." And he's, "Yeah, I guess I messed up." And I said, "No, but you scored. So like you go to the wrong spot and yet continually score." But that was his gift, and but he could score. He could handle the puck. He could pass, and the part I loved about Steve Larmer is he was um, one of the best back checkers forwards ever. Um,
Mhm.
he was always coming back hard. And when he had his man, he had his man, and you could trust him. And I don't know if that gets talked about much, but um, as a defenseman, you really appreciate it because some guys almost have their man. They have their man to the blue line, and then it's a 3-on-3. You play your man. The next thing is they let him go, and you're scrambling. But Steve could do it all. He was, and that's why he and Dennis Savard were so successful. Each of them could play, and they could pass the puck, they could shoot, um, and weren't dumb enough to shoot when they should be passing, and vice versa. So it's pretty cool.
Excellent point. Yeah, Steve Larmer, very underrated and doesn't get the attention he deserved because he was such a quiet guy, I guess. Um, Now, when you were in Philadelphia, just one last point is, it seemed in the press, especially in the first couple of years, they would play up certain things on your uh, off ice interests. Now, you took classes at the Royal Conservatory, um, were into acting and a lot of things that aren't associated with hockey players, especially tougher ones. Did the attention you got for that, was that kind of amusing, or did you find it annoying? Um, and how did you get into? You mentioned your mother was a very talented person, and that your parents wanted you to experience a lot of, things outside of hockey, and you had those opportunities.
Yeah, my mother wanted us to try everything, experience it, find out what you're good at. And, I took 5 years of guitar lessons, and I don't think I'm tone deaf, but I'm so close to that. The average person couldn't distinguish that. So I had no ability, but my mother gave us lessons, and we took speech arts and drama lessons, and we took art lessons. And the ironic thing, my mother had the artistic talent, not my brothers and I, but we took them. And I probably took speech arts and drama from a young age till I went and played junior hockey. And um, my mother drove us there, twice a week, type of thing. And then the next thing is they asked me, "What did you do growing up?" So I told them. And the next thing is my acting is getting in the way of my hockey. And I say, I haven't never been in a grade 7 or 8. I was in a play 8, but outside of that, I haven't been in a play. Haven't done speech arts and drama in 5 to 7 years, and the writing up a story. So, um,
Mhm.
it's hard to take it seriously, and everybody has an opinion about how everyone else should do better,
Okay.
and the greatest thing about is it's easy to give other people advice how to run their life and yet you struggle with your own. And let me tell you how you should raise your kids. Well, how are you raising
Yes.
your kid? Well, you know, it's just the way it is. Sometimes it hurts and sometimes it's annoying, and they're just trying to write an article, and that's the best they can do. God bless them.
Yeah. Fair enough. Fair enough. So then comes the trade to Chicago. You had some uh, in Philadelphia last year wasn't all that enjoyable. You were playing left wing and sitting on the bench, but Chicago definitely was interested in you. And just a tiny bit of background on that, it basically started in the '82 playoffs when they knocked out Minnesota, the first place team, who were very talented offensively. Played a rough style against them. After that, Lou Nanne, Stars manager, general manager, went out and brought up Ron Freese, Stan Mandich, guys who could handle themselves physically, and traded for Willie Plett, could obviously handle himself physically and play hockey. Meanwhile, Chicago lost a lot of their sandpaper type guys, Terry Ruskowski, Grant Mulvey, Ted Boley, Dave Hutchison, and were particularly becoming a skill team, were a little lacking toughness on defense. So the following years, when they made the trade to get you, did you have to feel you had to change your style much going to Chicago? You'd become established. You didn't have to fight all the time, maybe as much as in the beginning. Um, uh, and I want to ask you about the person you played on defense with most of the time when people were all healthy, Keith Brown, another underrated guy in my opinion, and a team guy and a really guy man of integrity. Any insight or a couple of words about Keith?
Well, I'd say first of all, with the trade, at least someone wants you, and it's your life, and Chicago owns my rights, and I go make the best of it. The story I've thought of recently, hadn't thought of for 30 years, is when I got traded. One of the Philadelphia sports writers said, "Yeah, they became disillusioned with me when they found out I couldn't skate like Mark Howe," and I feel like saying, I'm going to make you a list of who you should be disillusioned with, because Mark Howe, in my mind, was the best skater in the entire league. I used to, Bob McCammon, I had already made the All-Star season All-Star team, and a year and a half earlier, and he sat me on the bench, and he didn't like me. And as a coach, that's your right. And so what I did, if you're going to get your shot, you better be in shape. So I skated with Mark Howe every day. Mark Howe's carrying a lot of ice minutes. The next day at practice, I'm fresh as a daisy, and I'm skating with him. And normally in these skating drills, you go out 80% in practice, 90%. Some guys going 70%. I'm going 100% flat out with Mark.
Hmm.
And slowly but surely, as you go around the rink and around the rink and around the rink, I'm falling behind. And before Mark, I thought I was the fastest defenseman, and he would skate me into the ground every day. And he was a fabulous player. That year, he could have won best defenseman. He had my vote for that. So when they said I couldn't skate like him, I sit there and say, let's go down, let's go down the list of all the defensemen in the league and all the forwards, and maybe you'll find two or three guys who can skate with them in the league. So what a ridiculous thing to say. But when I moved, and so you mentioned saying, did I change my style? The game was changing. When I first broke in the league, and there was one fight, everyone grabbed everyone, and another fight broke out, and another fight, and if your guy was losing, you try to push one guy on top of, and two of them ruined the fight, and then you had to go back to your bench, and then they started calling more penalties, and before they didn't catch, so the game was changing. And I would say this: the first 5 years of my career, there were some skilled players that couldn't play in the NHL because they couldn't take the beating.
Hmm.
And there were tough guys that weren't particularly good players, but they got a career. The second half year, it had reversed to a certain degree. And all of a sudden, without the violence, some of these good players could actually play. And some of the tougher guys are losing their careers. And there's articles in the paper, the guy's 25, is that too old to play now? And I said, no, because he's playing the old game with the old rules. So the game changed. And um, I was fortunate enough to be defense partner with Keith Brown. And I love Keith to death. We were best friends. And so this I would describe Keith as a player. Um, he's fast as hell, so you can't outskate him and beat him. He's strong as hell. You're not going to get around him and try to muscle in, and you're not going to catch him tired because he's incredible condition. And if back then they dumped the puck in your corner, your defense partner would interfere with the first guy so he doesn't run you over. And then, you deal with the puck. The second guy comes in, but you have a little bit more time to fight around the boards or something. In 5 years, if they dumped it in, Keith interfered with the first guy 100% of the time. And I remember I think twice, because I'd count twice. I didn't get over to interfere with his guy, and I'm humiliated because Keith would never let that happen.
Hmm.
But Keith played flawless. And in terms of defensemen, like, the Norris Trophy for best defenseman usually goes to an offensive defenseman. But I don't know if Keith made a mistake in 5 years, and he made things look easy because if you're killing a penalty and he's trying to go get a loose puck and a guy hooks him really hard, and another player, the guy would hook him. He might fall down or not get the puck out of his hand, and just can't rip Keith off the thing, and he fires it down anyway. So all of a sudden, the puck's in their end, and we've got a little bit of time to catch our breath and do nothing. Um, but that's only because you couldn't interfere with Keith firing the puck down. So it looks easy because he did it, and I think things get mixed up. The guy gets hooked, he can't get it down, he's fighting out for a while and things like that and whatever. Keith solved that problem because you couldn't stop him,
Hmm.
and he was fabulous. He was fabulous. If he was my defense partner, I could probably be playing still today. He was that, and the other thing he did, he was a fanatic about working out.
Yes.
And if I got a few minutes about this with Keith, um, the team had a bike drill, and from what I remember, you start off at and this bike is rated 1200 something, and for a minute, and down to 800 for a minute, and finally you work up to 1500 for a minute, and it's a 15-minute bike drill, and Keith never said anything, but all of a sudden he'd be on the bike and said, if he's on the bike, I'm on the bike, right? And so he's a great influence on me.
Hmm.
And then all of a sudden the bike drill is not 15 minutes, it's 45 minutes. And it's not 1200 and then rest at 800. All of a sudden it's 1500 and resting at 1200. Then it's 1800 and resting at 1500, and then all of a sudden they maxed out at 2400, and we're resting at 1500 or 1800. Our resting was higher than the team's, and I used to get off the bike after 45 minutes every day. Um, he'd do it every day, and I could barely walk. I was just staggering. But it was great for my career,
Hmm.
and we lift weights, and so he was a great influence, a great guy to be around, and I'll tell you another funny, if you don't mind, with Keith. So all boys should do arm wrestling competitions, and my older brother was stronger than me, and for whatever reason, I could beat him in an arm wrestling competition. And he used to annoy the hell out of him because he was stronger than me. I knew he was stronger. He knew I could win. And I'm winning and I'm winning and winning. And I don't know if it's the way my arm was or whatever. But anyway, in junior hockey, we had we were doing arm wrestling competition, and Tim Kerr was on my team. And Tim Kerr is a great guy, but a Goliath, 6'3", 230 pounds, muscles ripped. He was strong as hell, and he's a lefty. So we did it left-handed, and he put me down in 20, 30 seconds. It might have been 10. I fought my best. And then we go right-handed. We actually went 5 minutes. And, it's not 5 minutes. We're just staying there. You try to then jump and get him and this, and then he getting me. And 5 minutes is awful. So anyway, great career. Um, think for whatever reason, I get to win these arm wrestles. And then I'm in Chicago. I'm going to wrestle Keith Brown. So we're in our hotel room, and we're going to do it. And he says, "You say go." I said, "Go." And he didn't put me down in a second because it was shorter than a second. He threw me down so quick,
Wow.
you couldn't have started your stopwatch. You couldn't have gone click, click to stop it. You couldn't have. And I said, well, clearly I'm not ready. I'm not ready. He jumped me, and it's this. I didn't get lined up. But now I'm amped up. Now I'm ready. Same thing.
Wow.
And then, to hell with you, Keith. Now I'm going to teach you a lesson. And same thing, same thing. It didn't matter how many times I tried. I don't think I held him off for a whole, and then Keith's always nice. Oh, Ben, you're really good at this. How would you know? So I don't know how he developed that freakish, explosive strength,
Yeah.
but he had it. And you know what? He was a great influence in practice every day. You know, you do races down the ice and back or whatever, and he was there. And I'm not messing in practice. He may as well be around the best. So I'd get beside him, and I always thought I'd be the fastest defenseman on the team. And then Mark Howe came in and destroyed that. But Keith wasn't as fast as Mark Howe. But I raced him for 5 years. Every day we do it, I'd find him. And sometimes I'd just stand there like I'm not ready to go. And then I'll get the jump on him and beat him. And he'd stand there casually. He wasn't going to let me beat him once. So 5 years, I don't know how many hundreds of races we had. He beat me by the same yard or something like that
Wow.
every time. And it was great competition. It was great competition. He was a great guy, but wow, what a physical specimen. What a physical specimen. He trained hard. He did everything right. And like I say, I could still be playing if he was my defense partner.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, definitely great. It's fun watching you too. And Keith had some hard luck. He had a long career, but he was kind of curtailed with injuries. But really appreciate the words about him. So
I'll
you did
tell you
this.
one more thing about Keith, and this is his biggest weakness, which hurt my feelings. And this is how, because of the injuries. Um, we're playing Toronto and Chicago, and we're winning like 5-1, and there's 30 seconds left. And all of a sudden, so now we're going to run out the clock, 30 seconds left, 5-1. And you look up there, and all of a sudden they have all their tough guys on the ice, defensemen playing center and shit like that. So you say, okay, I know what's going to happen. And for whatever, I don't know if it's a TV timeout, but there's a lot of time. And I'm looking, Dennis Savard is on the ice. And I'm saying to myself, get him off the ice. And Kurt Fraser, who was tough as nails, Kurt didn't look for it or provoke people, but he was strong and tough as nails. And I go up to the bench and I said, Kurt, want to come on out? And Kurt's saying, looking at me, and don't mention the coach's name, but anyone could look it up. And the guy couldn't figure out they had their 5 tough guys on the ice. We kept Kurt on the bench and Dennis Savard at center. So anyway, I go to Keith and I said, don't play the puck. Do not play the puck because they're just coming to run over your head. And he says, right. And this is my criticism of Keith. They dumped the puck in his corner. He went and played the puck and they ran over him. You know, sticks to the head and that. And I hated that. I told him, and Keith was going to do the right thing. But in my opinion, that wasn't the right thing. And then what I did is, of course, I ran over the guy that ran over Keith, and then a brawl started. And but that's Keith's one weakness, and that is at that point in time, you got to look after yourself. And there was no chance in the world that they're putting these guys on the ice and to kill out the 30 seconds and go home. They were looking for fights. They were looking to run over someone. So that was tough. Other than that, Keith was amazing.
Interesting. Great. Excuse me. Your first year in Chicago was a lot of injuries, kind of a lost season. The second 80-45 started off slow. The team got hot once Bob Pulford went behind the bench, had a great playoff run, destroyed Detroit in 3 games, won a 6-game war with the North Stars, and gave a real gallant effort against Edmonton in the semifinals. A freak team to have that much talent concentrated in one roster. 85-86, you win first place in the North Division on the last last afternoon of the season, which your 2 goals were the difference in the 3-1 win. One was memorable. You dumped it in from center, but just put it around the boards, but Doug Gilmore stuck his stick out and deflected into the net on, again, Mr. Millen, who was going behind the net to play it. Do you remember that game? Or anything that stands out in the first 3 years in Chicago?
The year we went, and what sticks out with me, the year when we took Edmonton to 6 games because no one else did. We had Dennis Savard's line, which is a first line anywhere. They could go head to head with Gretzky's line. And Troy Murray ran our second line, and they were a first line. They had a fabulous season, and Edmonton, had two first lines, and that's in any time with the mismatches, if you ever get your first line out against the fourth line, that's how goals are scored. And but we had two first lines with Troy Murray. There's Kurt Fraser and Eddie Olchuk. And Eddie was it might have been his first year, but he was highly skilled. He could play, and um, so as a unit, Keith Brown and I played with Troy's line all the time.
The Clydesdale line.
What's that?
They called him the Clydesdale line.
Well, they could see Troy Murray was a great skater and a great player, and then. He made he was on track to score 50 goals, and he played against the other team's toughest line. Right. So he made the comment, came out, he said, I may be the first 50-goal scorer that plays on the checking line. And it's true, but that's how strong they were. And then he broke his ribs, and I think he ended with like 45 goals or something like that. He didn't score after that, and he's out there trying his best to play. But that was an incredible year. We had a great team like that, and the thing that I really learned about that, and I probably hadn't seen it as clear, is I used to think, you put a better player with a worse player and you average them out and all that. But the truth is, if you have Gretzky's line and with weak defensemen and they can't get the puck out of the end, Gretzky has to sit in his own the whole time, and you destroy his thing. The other thing is, if you have, like I was saying, when Keith is going to get the loose puck, you can't hook him and interfere with him. He's getting the puck and he's going to do with what he wants. You're not going to stop him. So all of a sudden there's a loose puck. He fires it down the ice, and now we can play longer because the puck's in the other end, and we can relax. So what I learned, and it's clear to that year, is you get Doug Wilson, who's brilliant, and with Dennis Savard's line, and if Dennis takes off, Doug's a great passer and he'll get him the puck. It's not like Dennis is taking off for no reason, and and then puck bounces over the stick, and then they're firing off the glass and out. So you end up conserving a lot of energy by doing things right. With Doug, you don't stay in your end zone for a long time, scrambling to get the puck, because if he gets the puck, he'll make a good pass, to a winger, and you get it out. Now you're on the attack, so you're not wasting your top line in your own end. And once you're on the attack and they're in trying to do something good, it's easier on the defenseman. So once you combine the top players, they can play more ice time because it's a lot more efficient. And so we were fortunate in that year. Troy Murray, was a great player. All three of them were great back checkers, so you're not just getting overwhelmed all the time. But also, if you get the puck and you get it on their stick, they're not bobbling it. They're not, oh, sorry. It's not, oh, I fell down. The guy hooked me. Now we got the puck. We're out of our end, and that's why we could do so well against Edmonton, because the two lines could play with them. I'm not trying to say that, but we could make a good game out of it.
Absolutely. Yeah, well said. Did you we get to the 86 playoffs and the unfortunate injury where there's like a freak collision at the blue line, and if I remember, you fell on Steve Ludzik's skate, and they said it was a hyperextended back, and Very painful. Obviously, you missed the entire next season. What was the nature of the injury? What did you have to do to rehab it, and how did you spend the season you missed?
That was a miserable season. I'd say the easiest season is always playing every game. You get in shape before the season, you stay in shape, you get your rhythm, your timing, and but that season was miserable. Ultimately, I broke my back,
Hmm.
and um, and you try to get it settled down and slowly do a little bit better and a little bit better, and then you got a setback, and it was a sharp pain that when there's times getting out of my car and the pain goes in and I'm stuck there for 20 minutes. I got one leg in the car and one leg out, and I thought my career was over. And near the end of that year I sat out, they sent me down to um, LA to these sports doctors. And the guy, instead of rest, he said, what you've got to do is you've got to work your core. You've got to work your stomach muscles. You got to do leg lifts. You got to do this and build up the muscles to hold it tight. And he says, at first it's going to be sore, but he says, you're going to find that if you do this, it's going to get worse and worse and worse, but just sore, not and painful, but not like knifing. And he says, and then he said, in a month, you're going to come back and you're going to feel a lot better,
Hmm.
or um, you're going to have back fusion. And um, but he was pretty, I wouldn't say confident, but he's adamant that's what I had to do. So of course, you start doing the drills, and it's getting worse and this and that. And then all of a sudden, it's like they took the knife out of my back, and I felt fine.
Hmm.
And then it was right at the end of the season, and you get all of a sudden, the pain's gone, and shit. Now you sit there. Now I got to get in shape,
Hmm.
and I want to play that season. And so I'm out skating by myself. And what had happened is I hadn't built up enough of the muscles around my back enough to because I'm skating flat out. I'm trying to get in, desperate to get in shape. And then pinched again. And the next thing
Hmm.
is I could barely walk. And so I missed that season. And in the summer, I just started, taking the slow grind to time it out that my back would be ready. And for the last year. And, I did the best I could.
So we get to your final season, I guess, and uh, started off with a lot of promises. They had a new coach, Bob Murdoch, who had never been the head coach anywhere. Prior to that, he had assisted Bob Johnston in Calgary. There were is interesting. You came to the Hawks. There was basically yourself, Kurt, and Al, who were probably the toughest. Your final year, that team had Gary Nyland to lead the team in penalty minutes. Yourself, Bob McGill, Glenn Cochran, Davey Manson, uh, Steve Thomas could handle himself. Kurt Fraser, half a year. Dirk Graham, half a year. Dwayne Sutter, not all heavyweights, obviously. Dan Vincelette, Everett Sanapass were tough kids, but you weren't the only gunslinger. The team, the game had changed. You put up, 6 goals, 29 points, and you have injuries. Gordon Poole, I think that year, you put up decent numbers. Um, when and you again mentioned Greg Mellon, your first goal in your comeback year was scored against him in against St. Louis. When, as the year went on, did it click in your mind? This is probably my last year. I'm gonna start thinking about what I'm gonna do next in life. And how was it playing? What do you remember about that last season? I'm strange. The Hawks were my escape that year, so I remember everything about that season. How did
Um,
What are your memories and playing for Coach Murdoch as well?
well, I was missing some games with my back, and played a lot of games where at half mast where you play different. You try not to hurt the team, and I remember at the beginning of the season in training camp, and I missed a year of my back, and I got Gary Nyland, And I said, Gary, let's just hold on to each other and let's just sort of like shake each other up and like we're fighting and yanking this. And he threw me around like a rag doll, which wasn't very discouraging for me. But you just means you just out too far and you got to do that. But I try my best, and at the time I felt um, I got to get more confidence in my back, and slowly but surely was getting better. And um, um, so I looked at this and I said I felt is my back getting better? I could play a while longer. And um, my oldest daughter is about to start kindergarten, and I was living in Philadelphia and Chicago in the winter in Chicago, and so I thought, maybe it's time for, I thought I could play. I don't know when the right time uh, to to retire is, but I want to do what's right for my family, and you know, my wife would rather have just lived in because her house was in Philadelphia, so she'd rather have been back there. And hockey's a long year; you're gone a lot, and so yeah, that was a big decision for that, and I think I was very much tired of traveling and being away from my family. I never liked that. I hated being away from my parents when I was in junior, every second of every day. And traveling, I hated being away from my family, with my own family. So that got trying. And then, um, um, and I found, um, I don't know what it was, but I found I like playing. I like playing, especially with Keith. I like the guys, but I found um, is trying listening to the coaches and getting yelled at for you always turn right, you always turn right. So you turn right and say, why are you turning right? You should have turned left, and that got trying. And
Hmm.
um, the funny, I think it's funny now. Bob Probert, um, everyone knows him, big tough guy, great fighter, and um, I thought he was the guy that was going to wipe me out. I figured he kind of fights like me, a younger version of me. And if you don't, and you can't summon that rage for a fight, you're going to get your ass kicked. And it gets harder as you get older. And I thought, he's going to be the guy that wipes me out. So um, Glenn Cochran got in a fight with him earlier that year, and Glenn didn't do too well. But my absolute belief is if you drop the gloves, you won. So both guys won, and some guys do better and worse in a fight. But you drop your gloves. It's pretty lonely out there fighting by yourself. I'll give you credit, and you won. So Glenn won that fight, and Probert won the fight, and Bob Murdoch had a rating schedule. He'd rate us from 1 to 5 every game, and I think Glenn played one game, one shift that game, and got a 1 rating. And he announced it, and they hand out your little report cards, and he said because Glenn got a 1 because he did exactly what he's on this team to do. This is great, and give him some credit because dropping your gloves against Probert um, is not an easy thing, not an easy thing to do. And I had a lot of respect for Glenn. He was a good friend, tough guy, and he's my year. So this is his 10th year, and still fighting. So I thought that was amazing. So later on in that season, and I ran over Iserman like an asshole, but it's what I do. And I knew that. And if I do that, Probert comes, and now I'm in a fight with Probert. And so I thought, I didn't want to avoid fighting him. This is a chance to sort of like knock me off type of thing. And he's a younger guy, and I want to at least give him a shot to do this. So it was a funny fight that he didn't throw a punch. He held on and defended. And, I threw 20 punches, but I had a great grip on him and he was not going to be able to hit me. He had a great grip on me and I couldn't hit him. And, took great punches and he caught them all with his grip on my right arm. And I furiously tried to break the grip and I did everything I could. And bottom line is, I might have hit him with half a punch and he took none at me. And by that time, and the refs didn't break up the fight, so I was exhausted. And I said, "Holy shit! If I get any more exhausted, he starts fighting. He'll kick the shit out of me because I've used all my energy." So anyway, it didn't happen. I won the fight half a punch to none. And so after the game or whatever later, I get my rating, the 1 to 5, and I got a 4.
Hmm.
And you can tell that I've had enough of this. So
Wow.
instead of going to practice, I went to meet with Bob Pulford, and I said, I come in with my rating. And Bob didn't know anything about the rating system and this. And I said, I just need to understand. Glenn gets in a fight with Probert and gets a 1. I get in a fight with Probert, and I think I actually did better than Glenn, but doesn't matter. And Glenn played 1 shift to get a 1. I played the whole game. I played my regular shift all game, got in a fight. I think I even did better, and I got a 4.
Mm-hmm.
And Bob Pulford is looking at this, and he realizes this doesn't make any sense. But of course I know it. And normally you just take the shit and go on, and there's more shit coming the next day, so you not worry about it. But I just had enough, and I said, no, I really want to understand it. So there is no understanding this. It was a stupid thing, but that was Bob Murdoch. My average rating that year was probably a 3.5, which is below average. And Gary Nyland and I always played against their top line, and he felt like saying, I don't have to play against their top line for that rating. Why not just sit me on the bench? And if you sat me on the bench, I probably could get a 3 rating, which would be better than playing the whole game. And so Bob's there, and I said, Bob, I just want to understand. I want to do right by the team. I want to do a good job. I just want to understand what this rating is all about. And of course, there's no answer for it. And Bob handled the meeting well because he can't turn on his coach. And he's not going to say anything stupid. And I know what he said, but he diffused it well. And I said, but maybe we should get all the coaches in here and with you and me so I can understand it. I just don't want to do the wrong things, And he said, well, it's these aren't that important. I know, but they're important enough to give out, and I take everything seriously. So I was just being an idiot. But I had had enough. I had had enough of that superior coaching technique.
Hmm.
And probably like that was always offended me. I didn't body check many people. I cross-checked a ton of people because I thought it hurt more. And at the end of the game, I'd have no body checks. And I felt like saying, well, I probably cross-checked people that hurt them 30 times, but nope, no, I get 1 body check. So during the year, I can have 10 body checks. And so when I take people in the corner and I take them out extra hard, don't get credit for that. And after the whistle, when I clear the net, well, that's after the whistle. Don't give me a body check for checking the hell out of someone and knocking him flying. And the pushing and shoving, and I grab someone's face from behind and annoyed and scare the shit out of me. Don't give me credit for that. Just make
Mm-hmm.
sure that you've got your 1 to 5 rating. So,
Hmm.
and this is when I knew, I knew I wasn't going to play another year. And and this is where I'm a little envious of Doug Wilson. Nothing could throw Doug off his game. A coach tell him to turn right, he's there. Yep. And play the same game. He gets a rating, didn't care. Didn't matter what he did. I've seen coaches and they're yelling at everybody, and I listened and tried to do what coaches said. I don't think Doug listened to any of them. All he did was play the right way, the best way. And I just wish I had that brain power that I could just let all that stupid stuff go and just play the game. And instead, I used to listen to the coaches. And you're back in the days where if you win, everybody played great, and if you lost, everyone stunk. And I'm going to tell you this: there's games we won, but if you not because of me, because everything that I did looked like I was trying to intentionally lose the game. I was just terrible. And they say everyone played great. And there's games we lost. I played great. And then you get yelled at anyway. And you sit there and all that stuff. And Doug never listened to it. And
Hmm.
I envious of Doug. It's not even, admire him. It's past that. I'm envious.
Hmm.
Even in junior, he just kept moving on and played his game. And coaches thought he was listening, and he just he played the but the other thing is when those top players at Doug's level, they don't really need coaching. You just actually have to leave them alone, right? And so and that's my big theory is the top players. If you're a good coach, you stay out of their way because they're brilliant. And it's sort of like I remember in Chicago. Um, we lost some games, and um, now everyone's got to ride the exercise bike and get in shape. So at best, this new training thing is going to last a week. And during that week, we'll travel a little bit and play games. So it's going to be one or two, maybe three practices. This is the new training thing. And we're all going to ride the bike. So there's 4 bikes, exercise bikes, and there's 20, 25 guys, and they all have their 15-minute drill. So I said, can we just do our own drill? No, you have to do the team's drill. That is 1/10 as difficult as what we're going to do. So Keith and I go do the team drill. Then we have to get off and we have to wait an hour and a half for everybody else to do the drill so we can go on and do our own drill. So, because the whole thing was don't get in shape, make sure you do the team's drill.
Right.
And then you see some guys that are doing the team drill, and if you look at their meter, it's way down. They're making faces like they do it, but they're not pushing hard. And you know what? And then the combined with that is then they have the weigh-ins,
Uh-huh.
and then if you're overweight, they're going to yell at you. And my thought was this: you don't have to lift weights, you don't have to do ride the exercise bike, and you can be any weight you want. I don't really care. I think Doug Wilson worked his ass off and kept his weight right down. I think every great player works their ass off and keeps their weight down because they're doing it because that's their career or they have pride. What are you going to do weighing someone? What are you doing making them do this? If they don't want to do it, they'll be out of the league. It's that simple.
Hmm.
It's natural selection. And and uh, and then they get mad and yell at you and this, and then tell you the weight that you're supposed to be, and as superior coaching. And yeah, I think you should tell Doug what weight he should be, because I think during the season, if you wait him, the day after a game or the day before the game, his weight changed by about 1 pound. So, and you should tell him maybe he should be 10 pounds heavier or 10 pounds lighter. And, and how do they know? How do they know? They don't know how you feel and all that sort of stuff. And, one year they wanted Ron Flockhart in Philadelphia stronger. And so he went and he gained 10 pounds. And he told me during training camp, he says, I just feel heavier. I don't have that extra burst. So, he cut down on the weights and got back to his weight. And um, I don't know how you decide you know, what weight everyone should play at, or and then with training, um, Keith Brown was great for me, because I needed to ride the exercise bike for my legs. I needed that. I didn't have to go on the ice and practice. I didn't have to, none of that was going to help me. I certainly didn't have to get yelled at. It wasn't going to help me. But riding the bike like a dog was critical for me. And I love Keith for that. Dennis Savard didn't really have to practice. And if you want to have him practice and ride the exercise bike, you can wear him down. And then by the end of the year, so, like, and everyone's different. But the idea of you're going to get the guys in shape and you're going to control their weight, to me was ridiculous.
Hmm.
They're going to do it or they're not. And Keith Brown once said to me, you don't see Doug working out after practice, right? I said, nope. And he says he goes home. He never talked about it once. But he says, mark my words, and Doug goes home. And the times that he did ride the bike with us, he um, he did really well.
Hmm.
And you can't, he did well that you can't be in great shape and do that well. You have to be in great shape and riding the exercise bike to do that well on the exercise bike.
Mhm.
So these guys knew what it was, and you see some guys that have long careers and they don't let their weight balloon up, and they certainly work hard and avoid injuries. So it was so my last year, getting back with my rambling answer with Bob Murdoch, it was annoying. And oh, funny thing. So we lose out in playoffs, and Bob Murdoch made a quote in the paper that said, "When I was in Chicago, Calgary, we replaced everyone on the team but two players, and we became Stanley Cup champions. We're going to have to do the same here." Put that in the paper. So I go around to everyone. I said, go to Doug and Keith and say, or Doug and Keith and say, guys, who's the other guy they're keeping? It's me and you, Doug, because Keith's got to go, or Keith, Doug's got to go, Savard's got to go, Larmer's got to go. And you sit there and say, you might think that. You might think that. But you don't say it in the paper. And this is I knew I'd retired. I played my last game, so I'm telling guys, I'm just dying and laughing, saying, "Shit, it's going to be lonely. Hey, hope you can catch on with someone else." And but what a thing to say. And you say, I don't know if the big picture of coaching you have, and it's okay they didn't like. That's okay. I mean, everyone's got their opinion, and just like me. But some things were ridiculous, and I listened to them, and they wore me down over the years. But there's also great things. I'll tell you, great coaches. I love Bob Pulford.
Mhm.
Um, if I got a second to tell you, it was maybe my second year in Philadelphia. Um, we're in Montreal, and Guy Lafleur, at the time the top player in the league, is coming down on me one-on-one. And if he shoots, he shoots, but I'm not going to let him fake a shot and go around me. I've got this covered, and he's going to go to my right, and he's in there. He winds up for a shot, pulls the puck, and he goes around from my right, and I'm so prepared for this. I own his ass, and I reach out. I'm going to level him, and somehow he almost did like a matrix move, and he leaned back. He under my stick. He goes around. I didn't lay a glove on him. He goes in and scores.
Oh.
Now, doing a little autopsy, I kind of knew I made a mistake. The one-on-one, he beat me, he scored. I got that one. Both teams knew it because they were there, and 20,000 fans knew it, and everyone on TV knew it, the coaches knew it, or whatever. I'm ready to explode from the inside. I'm so angry. I'm humiliated. I've let my team down. You can't, worst feeling. And you get to the bench, and it's the end of my shift. I'm tired, and I'm just beside myself. And Pat Quinn walks down and just taps me on the back, which means go out. Now, I just finished my shift. He's going to send a tired guy out that just got beat. And I could have kissed him. I loved him for that because he's given me the vote of confidence. Now, quite frankly, I know who's not going to get scored on the next shift because I am out of my mind crazy and humiliated and just want to do anything to redeem myself for the team. Now, if I was someone on their team, they should have been worried that I'm going to kill someone because I'm desperate. but other coaches would sit you on the bench
Right.
and make you feel even worse. And he felt like saying, I don't know if you can make me feel worse, but you can prolong it. You can, and Pat Quinn, he just tapped me on the back, sent me out, and made me feel like $1 million. So, I don't know where that goes on. It goes into coaching and arrows and chalk talks and all that. But for me, he wasn't a yeller, and there's something he talked to you about, and but he kept it positive. Bob Pulford was the same way, and I loved it. And I mean, some guys might have liked the screaming coaches. I just never did, and I don't think any coaches. I don't know. Doug probably has some that he likes, but he certainly wasn't affected like me with the screamers.
No, that's well said. And it's kind of telling that Murdoch was let go later that summer. He spent the 1 year with the team and gone after that. Thank you. One thing I wanted to just reiterate, of course, our interview, Behn Wilson was not just a tough guy, a fighter. He could take the puck and make plays, go to the net. And I'm going to, be cutting in playing highlights of your career because I have a number of them. And I know you said that you don't really watch your fight videos because just get your blood boiling again. But I'm gonna put in Behn Wilson highlights, not just with the fist. So I hope maybe you'll get a chance to.
Yeah, no,
Last question. You've been very
that's
generous.
yeah, no, that's I would say, and we didn't really talk about too much of the fighting. I was going to say, very important to me. I didn't try to fight until I had a good grip on the guy's right arm. I would protect myself and just keep trying to get my hand so I had that grip. I don't believe you can survive winning a fight 100 punches to 99. And it hurts too much. You can't have a career fighting and throwing 100 punches and getting hit 20 times. My theory was you better start off the fight. You get hit no times. And if you can't get a punch in, that's one thing, but you get hit no times. Now, if you can get one punch in to no, or 1-0, 2-0, and get better and better and better, but don't get hit. And I've seen guys that, trying to play tough and learn how to fight in the pros, and it's bad because they get hit really, really, really hard in a way that if they had more experience, you wouldn't get hit. So, my way of fighting was I got to get that elbow and take away any chance that they can hit hard. And before then, it was defensive. And like I said, against Probert, he had a good grip on me. I couldn't hit him. And I had a good grip on him. And, every now and then you can break someone's grip. But I couldn't break Proberts with all my might and fighting and flurry. And if he started swinging, he wasn't going to break mine. I mean, that's just the way it is. But he knew you don't get hit hard. And then some fights are going to go better, but you're not getting hit. So that was a big part of how I fought. And I didn't really. I think I only got hit once hard. I know I only got hit once hard, and by Willie Platt in the back of the head. And so I was fortunate like that.
Yeah, and a couple of days ago, in fact, I rewatched that the fight you had with Probert, and it was just exactly like you said. He wasn't the enthusiastic Bob Probert. He had a good grip. You had a good grip, obviously, but you were the one making more of the effort to throw the punches. It reminded me of the season before, the one you missed when he fought Gary Nyland at the end of the game. Gary kind of wore himself out swinging, and Bob was hanging on. At the end, he caught him with an uppercut and knocked him out. So yeah, that grip's very important.
Well, if I can jump in there,
Yeah.
I kind of alluded to that when I said at the end of the Probert fight, I'm out of gas. So what happened with Gary? Gary was trying to fight and Bob wasn't fighting back, and there was a brawl or something on,
Right.
and by the time the fight should end, there's no one around to break up the fight. Gary's out of gas,
Mm-hmm.
and then Probert thing, and I thought, shit. maybe that's what's going to happen to me. And
Mm.
you can't let anyone know you're tired. You can't relax, and you're out of gas. And somehow you got to summon up enough rage to get one more punch in, so he thinks you're fighting, and the refs aren't in, so you got to get the rage and get one more punch in. And if you can get one more punch in, that you can, and hope you get that in, and you better get one more. And I was terrified at that point in time that then he would start fighting. But I had a good grip. But so I don't know how he fought me like that. Um, it's fair to say that he was just holding on and not fighting. And I'm not arrogant enough to think that he said he saved his life because I'd rip him apart. But you would think that. Um, if he's going to beat up everyone, I'm a guy on his list to knock off. So I have no idea. And I've seen his other fights, and he was devastating. So
Mm.
um, don't know. Life goes on.
Yep, indeed.
And I got to tell you this, a hell of a lot. I don't know if you're looking these things up all the time or whatever, but you're bringing a tremendous amount of things that I had forgot. And it's kind of like going back to Scoop Malinowski's book,
Mhm.
you're bringing up things that, oh, when you tell me, yeah, it's right there, but I hadn't thought about for a while. And then you knew about Gary Nyland's fight, and you're talking with the playoffs. And I was extremely proud when we went to um, uh, 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 we took Edmonton to 6 games. I think the first game they might have beat us like 12-1 or something like that, 12, 11 nothing. I don't know. And
11-2.
11-2. There
Mm.
you go. So it was pretty bad in Edmonton. They're killing everybody. And I would say a couple things. I think the game was pretty discouraging, to the extent that you're going to get discouraged. And I give a lot of credit to the guys on my team,
Mm.
because they stood up. And I give a lot of credit to Bob Pulford, and Roger Nielsen. And um, I can't remember exactly how they handled it, but we went out and played, and we made it a series. And 11-1 really wasn't an auspicious start, and somehow we were able to turn it around, and it was fabulous. So that was pretty special.
And with so many injuries the team racked up. I recall the last game. Uh, they said on the broadcast that you could barely walk to get into the arena that night, and they put you on a penalty kill in the first period, and it was painful. Just finally, you got the puck just backhanded out just to get the hell off the ice. But it was
Yeah,
a real gutsy effort.
that I pulled my groin. And it's funny. Some things you do in some parts of walking with a pulled groin are fine, but you can't skate a lick. And and
Mm.
and Keith Brown had a hip pointer,
Yep.
and the one part I remember. So they've dressed us, and you're hoping you can pull something out of the hat. And um, Keith and I guess, is penalty killing, or 4-4. But anyway, they. I, yeah. Anyway, the puck went down to our end, and Yari Curry was right behind me, and we're going back into our end to get just the two of us. And he could have just skated well around me, went and got the puck. He probably could have taken a shot and get 5 rebounds by the time I get all the way back, because I was going so slow.
Mm.
And I remember screaming at him, and I told him, you touch you touch that puck, I'll swing my stick over your head. I was yelling at him and everything, and I don't know if he was the end of his shift or what, or he just thought I was nuts, which is fine. And but he went down, and then he went off the ice. And
Mm.
you know, it's not that they didn't know we were hurt, because as the whistle guys are yelling from Edmonton bench, "Hey, Ben, how's your leg feel?"
Mm.
Well, how's your leg feel? They're yelling at Brown. I said, any problems? Need some ice? They're yelling anything. And and I wouldn't say we're it was destined that we're going to beat them, but we were playing hard. We had a really good team, and to lose Keith and I.
And Doug Wilson for part of their series too.
Yeah, no, it was right. It was, but that's the way it is. But that was a great team to be on, and the guys were great.
All right, you've been very generous. Last question thing I want to ask you about. One of your teammates in Chicago, Steve Ludzik, wrote an autobiography and had a few anecdotes about you in there. One of the things that he mentioned was the director of the Players Association, Alan Eagleson, would come around and make talks to the players annually or occasionally. And you were about the only one, he said, who would question, some of the things he was saying or the figures he was giving out. And the rest, basically just wanted to play hockey and not be bothered. But you delved into some of that. Did it seem shady to you at the time, or you have an inquisitive character, or what do you recall about those sessions?
Not so much that it was shady, but they would mail us out some information now and then, and it was never enough to understand what was going on. But it's sort of like it's in front of your face, and by that time I had taught myself, can't say all the accounting, but enough that I was capable with it. And they weren't giving us enough to know, really what was going on. And he was, saying some stuff, and not as earnestly, just trying to understand. The letter doesn't say certain things, and you're saying other things, and let's try to tie it together. And it was. I didn't think I was doing anything other than just asking questions, because this is on our minds. This is our livelihood. This is everything. And it's funny that Steve remembers that, because again, lost to if not lost to time.
No, indeed, and that's the kind of arcane or obscure stuff that I'm attracted to, and I'm glad we had a chance to discuss a lot of aspects of your career in life that other people don't, and it was really enjoyed this.
Well, I hope you can take this and edit it down and get 3 good minutes out of it. If you put in some fight tapes and that, you can stretch it out a little bit. But I've enjoyed myself, and I think it's really neat that you know so much about this, and you're doing the podcast to memorialize it. I am very sensitive now to this stuff gets lost to time, and as Scoop said, these were the golden years of hockey, where it was a lot of crazy, a lot of stuff, but it's great to memorialize it, and I hope people have interest.
Well, I'm sure they will, and definitely held my interest, and I want to thank you again. Behn Wilson, ladies and gentlemen.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Dupont clears it up the right wing side now for Behn Wilson, center ice, over the line. Olczyk, a drop pass with Troy Murray. Murray laid it back on the blue line. Here's Behn Wilson with it, moving right out in front. Behn Wilson took the shot and he scores.
That was a beautiful effort by Behn Wilson.
Here's Sutter holding it in to Brown. Far point to Wilson. The give and go with Graham. He shoots, he scores. Then Wilson on the give and go.
Sidler in against Savard. Puck came back to the line. Behn Wilson scores. Behn Wilson right from the blue line. 6-2.
And make very little effort to create anything in the offensive zone. Here's Sutter centering a shot. They score! Behn Wilson makes it 7-1. And the Hawks are ripping the Red Wings apart.
Secord comes back. Over on the wing, back to Secord as he took that return pass from Murray, unable to get a shot away. Murray slides it front, they score! Behn Wilson.
you see Pulford mentioning to his troops that Bannerman will probably stay out of the net. But again, well executed the way the Blackhawks just keep outnumbering the Edmonton Oilers in that zone. And then that's a little soft pass going right.
Now Courtnall. And it's stolen by Behn Wilson, who steps over the line. Wilson trying to walk in, shoot, and the save, rebound. He scores! Behn Wilson picked up his own rebound, shoveled in a backhander. A brilliant rush up the ice by Behn Wilson with some nifty stick handling, and the Hawks have tied the game at 1.
The Hawks looking for someone to give them a spark. Behn Wilson takes it away in the neutral zone, walks in, fakes the defenseman out, made the shot, got the rebound back, faked it, went to his backhand and put it into the empty net.
Point to Brown. Gave it to Behn Wilson. Wilson on the near side, a long shot. They score! That hit Jim Leavens in front and deflected in. Behn Wilson playing his second shift of the game scores a goal. Face off to the right of Millen here. Now the draw. Taken by Behn Wilson. Moves right in. Wilson, the shot. He scores! Behn Wilson as the Blackhawks. The Clydesdales really did a tremendous job clogging the front of the net. Millen is arguing he was interfered with as the Clydesdales wouldn't give him any room to work. Behn Wilson makes it 1-0. For one more power play rush for Chicago. Behn Wilson starts it away. Now shooting it in. Millen scores! Greg Millen went behind the net to play it prematurely, and Behn Wilson shot it into the open goal from center ice. 2-0 in favor of the Blackhawks. What a gift.
Behn Wilson's got the patent on that goal. He did it in New York. He's attempting to shoot it in. Gilmore deflects it. He's trying to shoot it along the boards. Gilmore deflects it. Millen's out of the net, anticipating it coming around the boards. It goes into the empty net. What a break for the Hawks after the power play was totally ineffective.
What a gift for the Blackhawks.
But what actually caused the penalty was a Blackhawk player grabbed a stick of a North Star player reaching for a puck, and they're calling that a lot. Brian Bellows. Behn Wilson.
Pass. Presley keeps it alive. Off for Wilson. Here's Behn Wilson. Walks in. He scores! Stars almost had it killed. Almost had the zone cleared.
Murray kept the puck into the corner. Checked by Nackbauer. Vincelette comes in to get the puck. Right in front. They score! Behn Wilson moved in from the point and makes it 2-1 Blackhawks.
I don't know how Wilson got that far in without any of the Flyers really noticing it. You can see that pass almost was picked off by Derek Smith, number 24 for the Flyers, but Wilson somehow got in there. Vincelette puts that puck right out to Wilson, who was rushing in from the point, and Wilson could do that, and he can do it well.
10